bodies and seeing what's inside of them.
Hey guys. Today, we're gonna be reacting to scary TikToks you should never watch alone. So here we go.
Scariest conspiracy theories in the world that will seriously change your life. So as we know, this photo right here shows all of the different conspiracy theories in the world, going from the least scary to, well, the scariest of the scary. So today let's kick off part 6 where stuff gets even wilder. So if you're easily scared or easily confused, keep on scrolling, do not watch this series. If you're here for the long run though, let's go. So today we've got dream theory, often referred to as alternate perception. Now this is just messed up and really confusing, so stick with me. Right, so you know when you have a lucid dream where it's really believable and you feel everything? You can literally control what happens in your dreams. It may be like real life. You know, you may be doing things you do in your everyday life, whatever. And sometimes you wake up and think, was that a dream? That's really weird. The theory is that we're actually switched. Now, stay with me. Basically, the theory is that what we're in right now, what I'm talking to you, you're watching TikTok, whatever, this is actually the dream world. So we're all dreaming. When we go to sleep and dream, that's actually the real world. See what I mean? Done a little switcheroo there. See what I mean? It's messed up and confusing. But if you think about it, we can control some of our dreams. So it is possible
not make
that
any
that's another
sense.
consciousness and another life. Hit that follow button so you never miss.
Creepy videos on the internet.
The dream
Part
world's not the real world.
227.
Dogs are ready for bed.
Oh, doggy.
It's just a peaceful night here. Get ready to go to bed myself. What the fuck is that? What? Oh, God! Fuck!
What the heck? What the heck?
The Springfield, Massachusetts serial killer. This case sparked my attention as I used to live in that area. Alfred Gaynor had grew up in a poor part of town and had very little education. Despite scoring his dream job, he suffered with drug addiction, and that triggered something evil in him. He was known to invite individuals, in this case women, to his place for fair exchanges. Once they were comfortable and caught off guard, he would attack them and make sure that they were unalived. By the end of this disgusting killing spree, he unalived a total of 9 individuals from the year of 1995 to 1998. He was given a total of 4 life sentences without the ability to gain parole. And that is...
Underwater welder.
Joan wrote on Catholic.org that when she was 21, she was heading to a club with 2 friends. As she got ready, she started feeling really odd. Then she said that it became clear to her that her and her friend were going to get into a car accident, and she, herself, would not walk away from it. This was before cell phones, so Joan said that she had to wait for her friend to show up at her doorstep before she could tell her that she couldn't go, as she had already left her house when Joan had this revelation. Joan said that when she opened the door to tell her friend that she wouldn't be going, she felt a strong hand on each shoulder holding her back. She was alone in the room, mind you. Once she told her friend that she couldn't go with her and that she had a bad feeling that she was going to get into an accident, the hands and the odd feeling all of a sudden went away. On the way home from the club, her friend got into an accident and totaled the passenger side of the car where Joan would have been sitting. Her friend was fine, but the passenger side of the car was empty and destroyed.
As if we didn't have enough nightmare fuel, this week in Washington State true crime news, a man was arrested for allegedly burying his wife alive. Just after midnight on Monday, October 17th, a woman was pounding on the front door of a home on Stedman Road in Olympia, Washington. Between the woman's screams and crying, the homeowners realized she was telling them her husband was attempting to kill her. The homeowner called police, and when they arrived, they found that 42-year-old Young Suk An had duct tape on her ankles, wrists, neck, and some left on her face. Her face, hair, and clothing was also covered in dirt. Young told police that her husband was still out in the woods looking for her, and though she was frantic, she was able to tell them her entire ordeal. The woman claimed her estranged husband, 53-year-old Chae Ki-young-an, attacked her around 1 p.m. that day by punching her in the head and throwing her to the ground. Che then duct taped her ankles, wrists, and mouth, but when he left the room for a few moments, she used her Apple Watch to call 911. The operator alerted police to the call, claiming that they could hear muffled screaming in the background, and then the line went silent. Che had walked into the room, discovered that she had called the police on her watch, and he destroyed it with a hammer. He then took her from the house by dragging her down the stairs and through the garage before loading her into his van. Shortly thereafter, police arrived to investigate the call but found that the house was empty and the garage door was left open. Che had driven Young to the nearby woods where he began digging a hole. Once the hole was big enough, he stabbed her in the chest with something sharp, rolled her into the grave, and began covering her with dirt and eventually put a fallen tree over the grave. Young claims that she was in the grave for multiple hours, only surviving by wiggling her face around to create pockets of air. After a while, she got her hands free, dug herself out of the dirt, removed the tape, pushed the tree away, and got out of the grave. When she looked up, she saw that his van was still sitting there, the lights on inside with the windows fogged up, about 30 minutes before she found the porch of the 911 caller. Later that day, someone reported a van parked somewhere in the woods, and nearby, police found a 6x3 shallow grave. Inside the grave were bits of duct tape with her hair. He was arrested later that night, and he'll be charged with first-degree attempted murder, first-degree kidnapping, first-degree assault, and felony harassment to kill. And these charges are all going to include an enhancement for domestic violence. And all of this because she wanted a divorce and he...
Serial killers are fan groups. Chris Watts. Oh god.
If you're under
Seriously?
65 and not on Medicaid, you need to see
Seriously?
this. The president just announced a $700 billion stimulus
This is what I
package.
had to put up with. Serial killers are fan groups. Chris Watts. Alien Hornums.
Subscriber SH said, "My wife died in a car accident. She was on a trip with 4 friends. 2 of them died instantly. None of them knew the other died. My wife said she was in a place with that one other person who died. She said it was like they were on vacation for 4 days, but she was only gone for about 40 minutes. When the medics brought her back, she came back screaming. 'What happened to you, Tyler? What happens to you?' she said. Right before her spirit came back to her body, she saw the most horrifying thing happen to her friend. Her friend never came back. She cries every time she tells me that story. I asked her what happened, but she can't explain."
This story absolutely makes me sick. A couple nights ago on Saturday in Colorado Springs, a 22-year-old male had went into a LGBTQ club called Club Q. He apparently opened fire and unalived 5 individuals and harming 25 others. The person responsible is Anderson Lee Aldrich.
Just because of
Apparently, he is the
LGBTQ,
grandson
seriously?
of Republican Representative Randy Aldrich, who
Seriously?
is also the former mayor of Santee, California. Because this is so recent, everything is kind of up in the air still, but apparently
kill them
Anderson
just
walked into
because
the
they're
club at around
LGBTQ.
11:56 and immediately opened fire. Police were notified at
Homophobic.
11:56 and arrived at 12, and by 12:02 he was detained. Thankfully, people
That
in
was
the
just
club
being
attacked
homophobic.
Anderson and got him detained.
You
until
shouldn't be
police showed up.
homophobic.
Creepy historical photos that will haunt your nightmares, Part 2. This photo was taken at the Mickey Mouse Club in 1930,
Oh, God.
where Mickey fans would gather in theaters to enjoy the classic show. The man in the trenches is a soldier from World War I. He is shell-shocked from the trauma that he's seen, and that's why he has this creepy glare and smile. This is George Metesky, also known as the Mad Bomber, who planted over 33 bombs in New York City throughout the 40s and 50s and was found mentally insane and put in a mental institution. Carl Tensler removed Elena Milagros' body from her tomb, covered her skin with silk,
that?
held her bones together with wire, and replaced her eyes with glass. He then slept with her dead corpse for 7 years. In the 1930s, people would freeze their freckles off with carbon dioxide. Their eyes and nostrils were plugged and they had to breathe through a tube. This was taken at an apartment in the Bronx in 1939, where Virginia Bender was murdered, and this doll was found to be the...
Yeah, we should go. Stay behind me. Shit. No.
Oh, I see it.
Come with me. Stick right behind me.
Worst child serial killers of all time. 3. Graham Young, a Londonese boy, at the age of 14 was charged with poisoning his father, sister, and a classmate, an act which consisted of serving his sister tea with deadly nightshade. After spending 9 years in detainment, he then went to poison 70 more people with tea, earning him the nickname, the Teacup Poisoner. 2. Mary Bell is an English woman, who as a juvenile, murdered 2 preschool-aged boys in Scotswood, England, in 1968. She committed the first murder when she was 10. In both instances, she strangled her victims to death. Mary Bell and her friend Norma Joyce were charged with both murders, though Mary herself only got charged with manslaughter and went on to spend 12 years in prison. 1. Check the comments. Disturbing things caught on camera. In October 2020, TikToker Itskristar and her friend Kelsey Davis came across a railway while walking across town. However, people claimed that near that place was a path that led to the gates of hell. What Chris and Kelsey found will shock you instead. Take a look.
Guys, we just found the craziest thing right now. We are at the gates of hell.
I cannot believe what we just...
So we came up through there and there's a dead chicken in a bag with feathers everywhere. The gates of hell are down there and apparently people come here to worship the devil and do sacrifices. I have actually come across people while I've...
Hit the plus sign to follow up on their story.
Alright, so TikTok follower Tall, Dark, and Dad Bod said, "We lived in an apartment complex owned by an elderly couple.
Oh my god.
One day my brother gets off the bus and the old guy asked my brother to have me move my truck. When I got home I moved it. About 5 minutes later, the dead tree next to where I was parked came down. It would have crushed my truck. Later that night, our mother comes home and tells us the old man died in his sleep last night. We argued because my brother saw him earlier that day. We found out he did indeed die, and there was no way he could have seen the old man. But he swears he saw him and asked him to have me move my truck."
Damn, I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, thanks for writing us that story, Tall, Dark, and Dad Bod. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the spirit, if that's what it was, of his neighbor. If he wouldn't have told him that, I mean, what if he was there when that happened?
What do you mean, what if he was there when that happened?
Well, if he was there when that happened, he would have probably died. He probably would have got hurt, but because that spirit of his neighbor told him what happened, it could have just saved his life.
Saved his truck.
Well, if he was in it.
Yeah, if he was in it.
if he was in the truck, that wouldn't have been.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, part 22. In 1945, a fire broke loose on the ship on the left. The men on the right are firefighters attempting to extinguish it. Moments later, it detonated one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history. 468 people died and over 5,000 were injured. This abstract art was painted by cult leader Charles Manson, who convinced his followers to kill 9 people in Los Angeles in 1969. This is the last photo ever taken of Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. The girl on the left, wearing flowers, hugged him, detonating a bomb which killed him and the photographer. In 2018, Tamla Horsford went to a sleepover with some friends to watch football and party. There were 7 white women and 3 men at the party in Georgia. And the next morning, Tamla was found dead face down in the backyard. The case was ruled an accident, but in light of recent events, it has thankfully been...
Cursed games you should never play. Part 23, the Shuffle Game. This game is what people refer to as shufflemancy, which has been particularly popular in the witchy area of the internet. This is one of the more simple games, and to start, just simply think of a question you want answered. Now, using the shuffle feature on whatever music device you use, hit the advance button. The next song that comes up is supposedly not by chance, and has some sort of meaning to answer your question. Maybe it's in the lyrics, maybe it's in the title, or maybe it's just in how it makes you feel. This game can be played with CDs or radios, but it's easier with your phone.
Shipping for holiday gifts this year is going to be a literal nightmare, so I'm getting all my holiday shopping done early. This is what's on my gifting list for all my...
Easier with your phone.
Thank you.
Scariest conspiracy theories in the world that will seriously change your life. This photo shows the scariest conspiracy theories in the world. Now, as I'm sure you know, in this series we're going through from the least scary to the ones that will literally change your life. Now, if you're easily scared, do not watch this, and with that said, let's kick off part 9. When I say this is mental, I mean it. So this is by far the craziest one yet. So today we're going to be speaking about the higher government. So we all know there's a government, you know, you've got your politicians, your presidents, everything. But what if there's someone above that? Almost like the Illuminati. Let's take a look. So this right here is the philosophical theory of Plato's cave. I know it sounds confusing, but stick with me. Basically, take a look at the diagram. So basically the projection on the walls are the media and what we see. We're the people sitting down. And the people behind it are the higher government. So like I've said, that's the theory. So what we're seeing is just the outside, the government. But behind that, what we can't see, there's something higher actually going on. Kind of makes sense? Right, stick with me. Now moving on, we've got this place called Bohemian Grove, which is where high-ranking government officials, politicians and everything go every year. It's a very top secret meeting, but no one really knows what takes place here. The theory is it is a meeting to do with Illuminati or a higher government. And moving on, I guarantee you did not know this. There is actually a secret passageway behind Mount Rushmore. It's physically impossible to get in because there's this massive slab in front of it, but it's estimated behind here is the Hall of Records, which literally contains all of the secrets of America. Mental, isn't it? There is of course tons of stuff that we don't know and stuff going on in the world constantly. Theories suggest that it can't just be the president and politicians behind everything. So maybe there is some kind of higher government out there. We're controlled by the governments we see, and they are controlled by the governments that they see. Mental, let me know in the comments what you think.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory, part 6. This photo shows a man and a woman on the 70s game show, The Dating Game. The man in this photo who won the date with the woman is Rodney Alcala, a famous serial killer. Cheryl Bradshaw, the woman, found him extremely creepy and after the camera stopped rolling, refused to go on a date with him, possibly saving her life. This photo shows 1954 Hermosa Beach, California. This couple's 19-month-old son was dragged out to sea. This shows George W. Bush receiving news of the 9/11 attacks while reading to a group of school children. While this photo may seem like an ordinary cop, he actually just got arrested after killing 77 people and injuring 250 more. He traveled to an island where a youth camp was held and started shooting at random. Children who didn't know he was the shooter went to him for protection because he was dressed like a cop, and he shot them immediately. Their only form of escape was swimming off the island.
I couldn't find the comment, but basically someone said that revenge is a human emotion. So here's some stories that prove that animals can be on that timing too. In 2016 in China, a man came home from work and kicked a stray dog that was sleeping in his parking spot. Later in the day, he and the pack pulled up and went to work on his car and nobody else's. You know what they say about karma? It's a female dog. This man, Shiva Kawat, tried to save a dying baby crow that he found in front of his house, but unfortunately it expired in his hands. But all the crows in the area saw was a man holding a past tense baby crow. For the next 3 years, those crows would jump this man every time he left his house, like to the point where he had to travel with a stick. In 1997, poacher Vladimir Markov shot a tiger and then stole part of its kill. That same tiger stalked his cabin, destroyed anything with the poacher's scent on it, and when the poacher finally pulled up, the tiger gave him a reverse birth. Earlier this year, a man in Thailand forced an elephant to haul logs in the brutal heat. That elephant named Pompam proceeded to rip his boss in half and then stood over the soul evicted body for hours. And those are the stories I can say on TikTok. I didn't even mention a
scary things caught on camera. In 2013, a YouTube video was uploaded by Phil Poling. The video shows Phil, late at night in his neighborhood, located in Mission, Oregon. Phil says that he heard creepy noises echoing outside his neighborhood, which was why he was outside in the first place. What he found will shock you.
Kinda sounds weird.
The sounds of echoing can be heard for a while until sounds of gunshots take over. Phil claims that he kept hearing these sounds for months leading up to that day. What do you think this was? Let me know in the comment.
Sounds like someone's limbs cracking. But just my opinion. I don't know it'd be that loud though.
Sorry. Yeah?
Dad, stop. Stop.
No. Can't
Seriously.
make me.
I'm recording right now. Don't. They can hear you. I'm recording me reacting to Scary TikToks on YouTube.
No. That's ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. How is that ridiculous? All I'm doing is just watching scary TikToks.
Okay, stop.
Do you want free crystals sent to you every month?
Stop
Yes,
it with
I
the
said
ads.
it.
Oh my
Free
god.
every month. If you get approved for
Okay, stop.
John says 99 for 90. That's a really good number. Oh my god. Jeez.
Shadow people explained. Shadow people are 2D entities. With no real features, they're just kind of pitch black. Most people say shadow people get into your home via a portal, which most often is a mirror. The theory goes that shadow people used to be human beings, but there were also some that weren't humans, meaning their personalities and what they may do can vary. But they're all pretty much very intelligent. Although if they are spotted by humans, they most often will flee. Another explanation for what these things are sleep paralysis hallucinations, which makes this less of a supernatural thing and more of a scientific thing. But also some people think they're aliens, so who knows.
Scariest conspiracy theories in the world that will seriously change your life. Part 11. Today we are talking about time loops. This is mental and very, very confusing. So you've seen films such as Groundhog Day, Palm Springs,
Yeah,
or Dark
Groundhog
Anything.
Day.
You kind of get the gist of this, where people are kind of stuck in a time loop, reliving the same day again and again and again. Like things like Groundhog Day, Happy Death Day, or that kind of
Yeah, I know.
What if this actually exists in real life? The theory is maybe there are some kind of wormholey weird places on Earth that connect interdimensionally with parallel universes. Told you it was confusing, didn't I? Now, if you don't know parallel universes, a universe is the same as ours, where things play out differently. But maybe there are actual things like this out there. So kind of think of it as if like a black hole, but on Earth. And maybe when you enter this, it kind of freezes time, so you're just stuck on your own. Almost like in your own bubble, just going through the same day again and again and again. I mean, it's mental and a crazy theory, but I mean, if you think about certain explanations for it, it kind of could be possible. But it's still mental.
Scary things caught on camera. A lot of you might remember the 2016 clown craze. This was basically people dressing up in clown costumes to scare others. Though, others would actually rob and even kidnap people. During this time, in 2016, a family was driving home in South Yorkshire, late at night, when they encountered one of these clowns, but you won't believe what it did. Take a look. Follow if you remember the clown sighting.
Ghosts appearing and disappearing.
Things that bother you, they never bother me. I'm living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time. Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight,
girls in the bed.
Scary things caught on camera. This video was taken in the middle of the night in an abandoned field located in Saudi Arabia. A white figure holding a cane can be seen off in the distance. The figure then starts approaching the driver. Panicking, the driver starts to back off and yells what can be translated to back up and get away from the car. Take a look.
Okay.
Scary things experienced by night shift workers. Anonymous said that he used to work as a graveyard custodian in a building by himself. Now, when he started, he was told that the building was very weird and that he should stay on his toes. He called bull, but after working there a year, he was pretty convinced that something weird was going on. He was riding the elevator to a different floor, but instead of going to that floor, it went straight to the basement. The doors open and all of the sudden, a dark figure starts walking towards the elevator and he freaks out. He hit the doors to close and the figure just kept getting closer. He ended up standing outside of the building for a half an hour or so while the police searched the basement. What really freaked them out was that the one entrance into the basement was locked and barred, and they didn't find anyone down there after searching everywhere.
My brother is obsessed with my fiance, and now he's gone too far. I was together with my fiance Lisa for almost 10 years and had been childhood sweethearts. Our relationship looked perfect from the outside, and everyone constantly pointed out how happy we always looked. The only drawback to our relationship was my brother Denny's unhealthy obsession with Lisa. He would stare at her the whole time she was there, and he oftentimes hid in the closet so he could see her and watch us having sex. Lisa was beyond patient with him and never let him know how much he creeped her out. I considered confronting him on his behavior, but didn't want to cause a fight in my family. My family had told me numerous times that I was standing in the way of true love, as they thought Lisa and Denny were perfect for each other. I told Lisa this, but she laughed at the absurdity of this. I remember the looks of shock on my family's faces when I told them that my engagement with Lisa was over. Denny burst out crying and ran off upstairs, while my entire family ran after him to comfort him. I stood there silently with tears streaming down my face and thinking of how much I had lost in just a matter of hours. The next few months were horrible for me, as my family didn't once ask how I was feeling and spent their entire time consoling Denny. Eventually something changed in Denny, as he was much happier and kept giving me weird smiles whenever he saw me. I arrived home one day and was heading upstairs when I heard unusual noises coming from Denny's room. I crept closer and almost fainted at what I had witnessed inside. Denny stood over Lisa and was having rough sex with her. I pushed open the door and began screaming at him while he stood there sheepishly. My family must have heard my screams as they came pounding up the stairs. I could see the looks of happiness on their faces when they saw Denny and Lisa together. They started scolding me and pointing out that me and Lisa were technically no longer a couple. My mother pointed out that Denny must really love Lisa if he was willing to go dig up her body. I stood there dumbfounded as my family watched Denny resume having sex with Lisa's rotting.
Scary things experienced by night shift workers. Reddit user She's a Firecracker said that as a teen, she used to close down a gas station and truck stop that she worked at alone. Her boss used to pop up out of the shadows as she was closing down the till with the backup lights on. She said that he'd be super calm and act like it wasn't creepy at 11 p.m. when he should have been home with his family. He was even at her high school graduation. He and his wife's numbers are still in her phone. Anyhow, he is currently on trial for murdering a prostitute via stabbing her to death back in 1994. A cold case potentially solved by DNA and modern science.
If you're under 65 and not on Medicaid, you need to see this.
This is the
president
last
just
time.
announced a
94. A cold case potentially solved by DNA and modern science.
Backrooms Level Fun. Level Fun takes the appearance of a children's birthday party, having colorful tables, what seems to be a cake, and strange murals on the wall. This is also the main base for partygoers. Level Fun is large but not infinite, being around 120,000 square miles. Partygoers are virtually everywhere and pretty much nowhere is safe. But if you tune in to 101.5 on a radio, a volunteer should be there repeating directions. There are many similarities to Level 1, but one difference being the quantum tunneling that partygoers leave behind, which if you go into, you just fall into a void, so probably don't. It's unsure how you actually escape this level, but there have been reports of people escaping and going to levels 0, 3, and 11.
Two-sentence horror. Whenever I considered killing myself to escape my parents' abuse, I just recite my mantra, "You don't deserve to die." Ironically, now that they are old, hungry, covered in bedsores, and begging to be put out of their misery, I still have the same mantra. All my life, my parents have told me not to open the basement door, but I got curious and disobeyed them. What is that glowing ball in the sky, and why does it hurt my eyes? When the kidnapper made me guess where he kept my daughter, I went for the basement and he said correct, allowing me to see her. But when I found her severed head in there, I learned that every other choice would have been correct as well. She said last time, "We're stuck in a time loop," which really pisses me off because that's what. I framed the first letter I got as a police officer from a woman thanking me after I'd supported her through her daughter's suicide. I passed it in my hallway every day for nearly 8 years before realizing the handwriting was the same as on the girl's suicide note. "Now be careful, that line of rock salt is the only thing keeping them out," the man said, welcoming my group into his refuge. "Sea salt," I clarified, "sea salt keeps us out." As I slit her throat, I looked in her unblinking eyes and realized too late that she wanted to live. I knew it to be true because mirrors don't lie. "Please, take me instead," I screamed, grabbing at the two men who took my child. "Sorry ma'am, children only," they said, as they continue loading up the last lifeboat.
Yeah, so I should probably explain this story. So obviously during COVID, people couldn't go to zoos, and the animals that were used to seeing people every day started to miss them, and that included eels. Because spotted garden eels in a Japanese aquarium had bad social anxiety, they would instinctively bury themselves in the sand whenever a person got near them. But eventually, after being exposed to people every day, the eels became familiar with humans and got over their shyness, which was good because scientists could study them without the eels trying to hide in the sand. But of course, with the zoos closed for COVID, the eels became unfamiliar with people, and they went back to hiding in the sand whenever the scientists would approach them, which is how they got an idea. The Japanese zoo asked people to FaceTime the eels to remind them of the existence of humans and help them overcome their crippling social anxiety and make it easier for scientists to study them. 2020 had a lot of weird headlines, but a zoo asking people to FaceTime introverted eels in the name of science is definitely up there.
Backrooms level, the Metro. The Metro is a backrooms level that connects to other levels via a train system. This area is extremely peaceful, but is not owned or operated by any certain wanderer. The entrance to the Metro is very unpredictable. but can be found in front room and back room train stations. However, since it's the back rooms, they can pretty much pop up anywhere. And while these entrances are unpredictable, the paths are stationary inside the actual metro, meaning you can map the entire thing out. Some wanderers have said they've seen an entity called the Conductor, which is said to control the flows of the metro. And if you see any maintenance doors and go through them during your time here, it'll take you to a Victorian house. These houses lead you to the Dark Metro, which is a much more sinister version of this level.
I will never help a random stranger out in the street, no matter how convincing they are. This happened to me back in 2007. I was 9 years old and my brother was 14. My mom had sent us out of the house with about $30 to go to a movie and maybe get a bite to eat afterwards. After watching the movie, it was getting pretty dark and I was ready to go home, but my brother wanted to get something to eat first, and we agreed to walk to McDonald's, which was only a couple blocks from the movie theater. On our way there, we were stopped and approached by a man. He had a friendly smile plastered on his face, and he was holding his child's hand. Didn't seem to be anything off about this man. He was average looking, and seemed to be nothing more than a father having a day out with his son. "Hey, do you two think you could give my son and I a hand real quick?" he asked. "We need help loading a mattress onto the back of our truck. The truck is just up the road." "Sorry, but we don't really have time," my brother said. It was at this time I noticed the little boy. He was about 8 years old, and he looked abnormally thin. He had a blank expression on his face, and wore clothes that were much too big for him. Turned my attention back to the man, who was now mumbling to my brother about how it would only take a second. My brother kindly declined again. Being the helpful kid that I was, I joined in with the man and tried to persuade my brother that we should help them out. I turned to my brother, who was now staring down at the little boy. My brother had a disturbed expression on his face as he looked down at the child. The child stared back at my brother blankly. I didn't understand why my brother had that look on his face. He grabbed my hand, and said, "I think that's my mom over there." He pulled me, and we began walking away from the man. I didn't understand what was going on, and why my brother had just lied about our mom being there. He didn't let go of my hand and practically dragged me until we were a far distance away from the man and his son. I looked back and could still see the man holding his son's hand. Only now, he wasn't smiling anymore. He had a look of fury on his face, and he yanked the little boy by the arm and they walked away.
Oh, I think I understood what was happening. I think he was trying to kidnap both of them by using his son. Okay. Well, there you go. Sorry about all the interruptions. My parents will not stop talking. So, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will make sure to put the FNAF AR video and this video on at some point. So, thanks for listening, and subscribe to my channel, please, and comment down below what video you would like to see next, or I could cosplay as any character you want me to cosplay as. But nothing that I will not know, okay? Has to be something that I would know, alright? Okay, bye, Shadow Fam. Rock out.